14 seasons prior of RPL Tier 2. Now let's add a 15th one in the books. Let's start this brand new chapter. If you want to include F1.5 as well, this is our 19th go at the second tier of RPL action. And it is Bahrain for a third season in a row as a season opener in RPL Tier 2. It's also the second day in a row of Bahrain. We ran Bahrain yesterday in Tier 3. Congrats to Liral Fusion on his first career win. We got to wonder now with this event tonight for Tier 2, our second of the weekend, can we continue the trend of first-time winners? And also some underdogs on the top step and even the bottom step of the podium. Also, inside the top 5 as well yesterday. We had Valkyrie for Williams. But nonetheless, a brand new day means clean sheet for some. Clean sheet for some teams that desperately need it too as well, based on performances yesterday. But it is good to be back for a brand new season of RPL. Season 15 this is of Tier 2, folks. I'm your commentator, Ryan Searles. And alongside me should be Polish Hammer very soon tonight. You just gotta wonder with a brand new season what to expect. And last season we had Red Fire Tiger lose out on the championship by the biggest margin, or the biggest comeback, excuse me, in RPL Tier 2 history. A hefty margin it was. 58 points he was ahead of George when George came back to Tier 2 racing. And George came back to win the championship. And last season, he won the championship, George, but he also won the last race as well with it in the stewards room at Abu Dhabi. Not only did he win the last race as well, but Mercedes won the Constructors. So a different team winning the Constructors compared to the Drivers' Championship. It was also Red Bull's statistically worst season in Tier 2. Can they have a better season with now 2 rookies in their car? So let's go over the penalties, headlines, and changes into tonight's Grand Prix. We have 4 drivers moved up from Tier 3. We have Goatley, Uri, Turbo, and Ardell. Ardell's previously been here in Tier 2. He's moving back up to Tier 2 after being in Tier 3. We have Goatley moving up. He got a podium last season. Uri made quite a few starts last season as a reserve. He's now full-time. He's got big shoes to fill. And Turbo, who made 2 starts last season in this tier. He is back, and he was the runner-up in the Tier 3 championship while Uri was the champion. So let's give you a little rundown on our loans after we talk about the only penalties we have. And, one more move up. Red Fire Tiger, he's in Tier 1 now. He is not a Tier 2 driver any longer. Gagi starts his 2-season ban tonight. If you weren't here with us in Abu Dhabi, he violated a league rule, racing when you were not allowed to. So that got Cookie's TP rule removed. That's why Luke Range is the TP now of Red Bull. Egg the co-TP. Gagi no longer racing for the rest of this game cycle due to violating that rule. Basically getting the George Alp Williams treatment there. Night Owl and Matt Z, they switched teams into this season. Night Owl in the Aston Martin, while Matt Z will be racing this season in the Williams. He's not here tonight, but that was one of the changes that happened when we released the lineups. Australia returns this season. It's on the calendar for the first time since Season 8. And it's 7 long seasons without it, so it's good to be back there. That will be at the second half of the season. Meanwhile, let's go over our loans, reserves, and drivers missing. Real Hyper is in for Alpine. He raced yesterday in Tier 3. I believe this is his first Tier 2 start. Woda, he's in the Haas. Jordan, welcome back. He is in the Williams. We have Torn Penguin in the Ferrari due to Sam Gino not being here. FX7 Danny's currently not here either. He's probably joining from another league race. Beatnik, who returned yesterday, he is in the Williams, his favorite car, Williams Heritage, right there. So he will be here tonight, making his return. He's the first one to start a lap. We'll go on board with him in a bit, but because of Lennon missing in the Mercedes. That puts Wavy up there in the car, and that puts Ardell up there in the Aston. Matty made his debut yesterday in Tier 3. He is in the Alpine tonight on loan. Beatnik also on loan, by the way, to clarify. Midfield Maestro, welcome back as well. He is in the Haas. And F1 Shorts, who got a top 5 finish yesterday in Tier 3. Start to lap, and he is reserving in the Kick Sauber tonight. It's the car. He got his first points finishing in Tier 3 last season in Qatar. So we'll ride on board with... Never mind, we won't ride on board with Beatnik because Beatnik has had an off in the S section. A huge mistake for Beatnik. That's going to cost him his lap time. He backs off, and he will go for another one. We've got RPL Ardell on a lap right now, and we're going to find out what he can do on this lap. The Canadian driver returning to Tier 2 full-time. He did partake in a few events last season, once in the Kick Sauber, once in the Williams, but now he's got a chance tonight, at least on the Aston Martin. He'll be full-time this season in the Williams, returning to the Mercedes Academy as well. High hopes for Ardell in this tier for sure. But one more corner to go in his lap, one more braking zone. Really, 2 corners. It's really just an arc in the final corner, counted as a corner. That is added additionally. Ardell is the benchmark, though. 27.6. The Alpine comes next. He will be behind Ardell. We have F1 Shorts and the Williams of Beatnik crossing. Beatnik had to abandon his lap. F1 Shorts didn't. He is second. Then the McLaren. That McLaren starts his lap. That is either Polo God or George F. Williams. It is George F. Williams, the reigning Tier 2 champion. It took him 14 Tier 2 seasons to win. And I know you're probably saying, yes, he probably didn't compete in all those seasons. That's probably correct, but he made his first Tier 2 start back in Season 1, so it has been 14 seasons in the making for George Williams, who can now call himself a Tier 2 champion. Tier 3 and Tier 2 champion. 20 wins now across all of our tiers. And McLaren looking for their first Constructors' Championship in Tier 2 as well. Torn Penguin and Night Owl complete laps. They are ahead of RPL Ardell. And it looks like George Williams wanted to pick up a little bit of tow from the Kick Sauber getting out of the way. That Kick Sauber was very hesitant on making sure George Williams got slipstream. But nonetheless, up the hill he'll go. We saw a lot of driver errors yesterday. One from Polish Hammer, one from F1 Shorts. Some drivers really struggling up the hill, whether it be rear locking into that next braking zone or clipping the curb, or just having no rear grip. Their tire pressures maybe being messed up. But George Williams, although he didn't get a slipstream from the Kick Sauber, he did get one from his Academy teammate in the Alpine. He'll cross the line. This should be the real benchmark to look out for. It's a 27.2. He is fastest, the Welshman, by 2/10. Next to start a lap is one of our other drivers who's moving up from Tier 3, Goatley. He got a podium last season in Singapore. Almost won the race, but he lost it to George Williams in the last lap of the race. This season, he could definitely change things around in that V-Carb and end up going maybe 1 or 2 spots better. I say 2 spots because you want to at least do it twice. And last season, well, I believe he finished 3rd on track after being pushed back there. Well, he finished 2nd, but I think he was originally 3rd. Nonetheless, Goatley, he has a Tier 3 pole, but he does not have a Tier 2 pole to his name. And in fact, V-Carb really pulled... Oh, whoa! That McLaren almost got in the way. That was George Williams. I don't know if they'll send that to the stewards room for maybe a bit of blocking, but I think he just got away with that, George getting out of the way just in time. Couldn't really tell from that angle. FX7 Danny has joined us. But I do really want to talk about V-Carb momentarily, because V-Carb, as he sets a 6 flat in the middle sector, they really pulled off something special last season. And I say they pulled off something special even though they didn't finish high up. I say that because they were in contention for a win at Spain and Singapore. That's the first time in multiple races they've been in contention for a victory since really Season 6. Goatley is 7th fastest. Foles, who almost had a pole last season, he is 6th fastest. I think he did have a pole, but he didn't have a podium. That's what I think the big thing he was missing Foles, the podium. He didn't have a pole last season. I was correct. I just had to clarify with myself there and make sure I wasn't second guessing. Gotta stop doing that. Good to see you guys chat. We have, well, we have Clarky, we have Zora, we have F1 Shorts, Neski, Maestro, SV back in here. Good to see you guys in the Twitch chat. Well, one driver who made a move at the, you sent invite to Woda. He needs an invite. All right, well, I'll do that right now. One driver who really did not have the best of seasons last season was X-Polo God. X-Polo God 26X. He was in the Ferrari and the Haas for some races, but really didn't stride in the Ferrari. That Ferrari he felt was one of the most uncomfortable cars he has driven. He did really well in the Haas, getting multiple points finishes, but now he's got a lot of shoes to fill. He's in the McLaren alongside George, and really going to give themselves the best chance to win the Constructors. Polo God's a former F2 winner. He's also a runner-up twice in the F2 Championship, once to Ray Stainty, once to Luke. And he's never had a win in F1 cars. Could tonight be the night? For Polo God, one pole around Bahrain prior in F1 cars. That comes back in Season 5 F1. Remember, he used to be a Tier 1 driver. Some would say he's fallen off since then, and some would say that about a lot of others too. Beatnik being one of them that talks about that with himself. He's slowest of the guys who've completed laps. But for Polo, I think he's really just looking for this season multiple podiums and really just that return to the podium. He's not been up there in 6 seasons. Polo goes 4th fastest. Quite a close gap from 2nd to 5th right there. Mentoki, Polo, Torn Penguin, Night Owl, all up there. We've got Wavy Knife completing a lap in the Mercedes. Welcome back to the Mercedes, Wavy. It's been a little bit, but he is full-time Aston this season, and he's got some good hopes. He had a good race in Baku last season. He'd love to replicate that. He's 7th fastest, and it was this race 2 seasons ago. His teammate and him both had trouble on the opening lap. So hopefully Mercedes can avoid that disaster they had in the Season 13 opener on lap 1. FX7 Danny gets to do some qualifying laps coming from a league race. He had 3 podiums last season, and he'd love to have more this season. He's a really bright talent here, recovering his RPL career, to say the least. He started out in Tier 1, merging from Eggs League, and it was this circuit he started at, Danny. He's got a good chance to maybe win a race this season, but got to keep getting podiums first before doing that. He had 3 P3 finishes last season, and Invade is really giving him a good opportunity, like I said, to recover his RPL career, and he's doing a good job with it. He's not the fastest of drivers, but he just seems to be consistently right up there, which is probably what you need in these races sometimes. FX7 Danny goes 7th fastest, and we've got quite the grid here. Top 7 under 4/10. RPL Ardell recently snuck his way up there into the top 5. George Up Williams is about to start a lap, but meanwhile, I want to go on board with Woda, one of the drivers who qualified extremely well last season. Whatever equipment he was in, whatever racetrack it was, he was always up there no matter the circumstance. In fact, for Woda's case, he actually equaled Tick Sauber's best qualifying last season back at Abu Dhabi in the last Grand Prix of the season. P5. He'll have a bit of traffic to get through. That's the V-carb in front of him. That is Goatley. But for Woda's case, though, he's just got to find a way to have better race pace. He's had really great qualifying efforts, whether it be from Tier 3 or Tier 2. But when I see him in the points, it's always a P9 or P10 finish, even when there could have been a little bit more left in the books. So he would love to do great with his race pace this season compared to only just his qualifying pace. Meanwhile, George Up Williams is back out on track. We're going to switch to him. He is down in the first sector, and he actually has backed off on the lap. Torn Penguin is still going. He's ran out of battery coming to the line, but he is improving, and he will go fastest. 27-1 for the Ferrari driver. Yesterday, it was Alex Norris on pole with a 27-0. We're just shy of that right now, and I'm sure we could see that happen very soon. It's Woda. Has gone up to 8th fastest. Really good qualifying effort there. Always seems to find a way to get a good qualifying effort regardless of the car. Here's one of the rookie drivers, Turbo. He's teammates with his championship rival from last season, Both of them good friends. Both of them from the same country, representing it quite well here. And Red Bull only had one win last season, but they had quite a big amount of poles last season. Differing drivers doing that as well. You had Blonde, Bulugagi, Jackson Traeger. A lot of drivers took pole in that Red Bull, but never could really pull it off in the race. Interested to see what they could do this season with a really young lineup. RPL Zakaria, by the way, is our 20th driver to join us. Big wiggle from Turbo. Zakaria is serving a qualifying ban, I believe, for being late to the session. Meanwhile, Turbo has turn 11 approaching his way now, and he'll go up the hill to complete the sector. He is below halfway on the battery, and at a 6-1. I think Goatley did a 6-0, so this is not bad from Turbo. But remember, it's only just his third or so start in the tier. Him and Uri come into this tier as rookies, and really drivers not expecting a whole lot either. It's their first full-time season in Tier 2. It's his first lap full-time in Tier 2 as well. Turbo is 13th fastest. He's probably got a lot of room to improve. We saw a few mistakes in the lap, so I would expect him to find a way into the top 10. What a stacked grid this is, because look at the top 13 times all within a second. Goatley found his way up to the top 5. He is 4th fastest for VCarb. We have Beatnik back out there. He just went 17th fastest, just barely dispatching Jordan. Both Williams currently 17th and 18th on our grid. Currently no one out there on a lap as far as I'm aware. Maybe Mintoki is. I think she might be the only one. Yes. Up by a 10th. Now this female South Korean driver won her first race last season in RPL Tier 2, becoming the first one to do it in F1 cars in RPL. We already had Valkyrie win prior, but she's not done so in F1 cars. She had a podium just once prior in Tier 2. It actually came in this car. And Mintoki's first came in this car in the tier. She's looking to really find a bit more love with this car this season, because it was a podium in Monza taken away in the storage room, then a podium at the circuit for the first time 3 seasons ago. She really loves this car a lot, whether it be the look of it, the drivers who've driven in it, or what she's been able to do with it. And right now, she's 5/10 up. She said the race pace with this car is a little bit off, so don't expect me to be anywhere there. But she is up in the time in Sector 2. Using all that battery left across the line. Could be a first pole tonight. Right now, it's provisional pole for the South Korean. With 3 minutes remaining, Mintoki to pole. How about that? We could see our first pole sitter of the season be a brand new pole sitter in Tier 2, in fact. We've had a total of 48 drivers take pole in the tier. And man, would you just love to see a 49th tonight. We actually had a first-time pole sitter back in Abu Dhabi. That was Night Owl. And it was also in the Mercedes. Maddie says, I guess I'm not much of a qualifying guy. I'm a race merchant. Well, Maddie is currently 16th fastest behind his teammate. He didn't have a bad race last night at all. He just ran into trouble a few times, though, out of his control. But it's good to see you here in RPL. I've commentated him racing a few other leagues a few years ago, so it is very good to see at least new faces in RPL, but just new places, not new places, new faces for everyone else, new places for me and others. Woda talking about his decent lap. He is 9th fastest. That's not bad at all, actually. But everyone queuing up for their final flying lap here in qualifying. We have less than 2 minutes to go to decide pole position. We've got 10 of you watching. Give us your predictions for pole position tonight. Last night, we had pole time be a 27-0. We're already past that. Do we expect us to go any further than what Mintoki has? We'll find out. Wavy Knife starts his lap, and he's going into turn 4. A little lock up on the right front tire for Wavy, but he should be okay. Into the second sector, he's down. And it's really not only down from his lap, but also down from the teammate. If Wavy does back off here, he might have just enough time to set himself up for another lap. And he is doing just that, going to none ERS. Torn Penguin already completed the first sector. And I'm sure he's got time to find here in the Ferrari. He only just is less than a tenth out of George Williams, and could be taking his best starting spot in RPL if he just holds it, and maybe it could get even better. Polo God starts his final flying lap. He's got the Williams trailing behind. Ardell has a train of cars he's with. Everyone trying to pick up slipstream here to end their laps, but Torn Penguin was down 2/10 in the first sector, gained some in the second sector, but he still is down on the lap. Purple second sector trying to pick up some tow from the Mercedes. It worked out just a little bit, but he is approaching the line now. 2 corners to go, 1 more braking zone, using all the energy left. Deployment used. The Ferrari crosses the line and just cannot improve. Wavy Knife starts a new lap, but we have more cars still crossing. Checkered flag waving. Goatley and Turbo both missed the flag. Mintoki, she is on a cooldown lap. Further back, though, we have ERT Uri, I believe, on a lap. There's a car off in the background. That was someone down below the top 13, but ERT Uri in his first full-time Tier 2 start is crossing the line. It's good enough for the top 10. The Kick Sauber of F1 Shorts finds the top 10. Can we get more drivers finding the top 10? The Alpine is next. That's Maddie, 16th. George is on the front row. Just misses out on pole. Woulda cracks the top 10. Next is Polo God and his switch to McLaren. Down in the time. Seems like he's been the king of Bahrain in the past, but he cannot find the top 5 this time. Only 6th. We have more crossing. FX7 Danny is one of them. Ardell goes 3rd. Really good effort there. FX7 Danny is only 6th. And Wavy Knife, the only one next who can say something about it. FX7 Danny, Torn Penguin, both Ferraris only a 10th off each other. Both Astons a really good qualifying effort there. Only less than a 10th off each other. Both in the top 5, but not on pole. Wavy Knife is the only driver who can deny Mintoki her first pole. Wavy Knife using all the battery, but doesn't have enough. Mintoki back to Mercedes on pole position for the first time in RPL. How about that? A season after her first race win in Qatar for Ferrari, she's on pole for the first time for Mercedes in the season opener. She found all that time on her lap in Sector 2 to do it. It's the first female driver in F1 cars in RPL on pole position. We have 3 Mercedes Academy cars inside that top 5 as well. They led this race, Mercedes Academy, with the Aston Martin team 2 seasons ago. They won this race last season. What a great way to start off a brand new Tier 2 season. And the reigning Constructors Champions as well, for good measure, alongside their name. Well, here it is. Here's your lineup. Ardell gets his best Tier 2 qualifying effort. He does it in an Aston Martin. That's a really good effort there. Penguin, a good effort. Night Owl, a good effort. George just on the front row. Back here, we've got some big names outside this top 10. We got Turbo. We have Wavy Knife. Foles, I believe, as well. But he's in a V-Carb, so I did expect that. But he outperformed his Alpine quite a bit last season. And, of course, Sicaria starting at the back of the grid as well. Some good efforts from the Ferraris as well. Polo God, quite a bit ways behind his teammate. Goatley, the highest of the rookies, I believe. What a really great qualifying to start this season. We got Neski, part of the McLaren Academy, rooting for Polo. We have F1 Shorts chiming in his lap, saying, meh, lap for me, really lagging. SV maybe claiming he should be Tier 2, referring to F1 Shorts. Ardell very happy. And we're talking about how stacked the grid is. Yeah, top 8 within half a second. We have got quite the grid for this upcoming season of Tier 2. I'm impressed with what we've got here. I really am. We've got a grid that will give you something to look out for. Now, you don't want to ready up too early. You want to wait till the host does it. So just make sure if you're a driver watching the Twitch chat, you are aware of that. But I don't have Polish Hammer with me tonight. He was supposed to join us. But yeah. Luke makes a fair point. as the Red Bull team principal, the new Red Bull team principal, saying you don't get points for qualifying. Yeah, well, look at where Red Bull is at. Look at that. 10th and 14th. But again, I'm sure those drivers who are rookies and top 2 from the Tier 3 championship will find something, whether it be later on in the season, in the race. But as you see, some of the drivers are selecting the soft compound tires. We see on this game the hard compound tires seem to last just basically almost the whole race. So I feel like some drivers, compared to what we saw a season ago and 2 seasons prior, are electing to go for maybe a soft-hard strategy, maybe a hard-soft strategy. I don't think we're going to see any soft mediums whatsoever, but no surprise to see drivers try and cheat code the one-stop. We do see a lot of drivers going for medium hards or hards mediums. 10 seconds to go. Get your final predictions in for the season opener. Well, it's time to kick off a brand new season of racing in Tier 2 in RPL. Season 15 it is. The 5 red lights come on to kick on a brand new season. We're lights out and away we go. Look at Ardell trying to split the middle already. Georgia Williams got a great start. Blistering start from the McLaren, already up to the lead. Ardell wants to give it a go. He's going to go around the outside, side by side. Ardell on the inside line leads the Grand Prix. From Tier 3 last season to leading in Tier 2 on the opening lap this season. Georgia Williams gonna try to go on the outside for turn 4. Ardell late on the brakes, trying to hold on, and he does. Georgia Williams is still there. Into the S's. Contact! Both of them still having a go. More contact! Leaning and bouncing off one another. Georgia Williams recovers the lead. Ardell with a big slide, and Mentoki has had a horrid start. She's down to 4th. Urias gained spots up to 7th, and that was trouble from the Kick Sauber, the youngest driver in the field. F1 shorts down the order. He is down outside of DRS already. He is in no man's land after that start, and also more yellow flags at the back of the field. That is Wavy Knife, who's been collected in a mess with, I believe, maybe Hyper. We have Polo God losing places. Turbo's gaining places. Polo God started up in the top 7 places. He's down to 10th. So one McLaren's gained, the other is lost. Both Red Bulls, though, have gained on the start. Also, the V-Carb is gained of Goatley. So a great start from the Red Bull Academy right here. Is exactly what they needed, but not the start Mercedes needed. Wavy Knife in trouble. Mentoki down 3 from pole. Lap 1, Georgia Williams. And you can see movement further back. DRS enabled. We have a move. Goatley down the inside. FX7 Danny down the inside. Both are trying to make maneuvers here for places inside the points. And FX7 Danny is up a spot further back. I believe that's Wooda and Turbo racing it out, but nonetheless, Goatley watches his teammate try and have a go at Mentoki, and you can see the Mercedes driver is seriously struggling on the hards. She's down to 6th. This is an absolute nightmare for her. You can also see the positions gained from our drivers too. Up 5 for Uri. Really blistering start there. Zakaria up 7. Turbo up 4. And might have a go here for a 5th place. Early braking here, trying to avoid the stack up, the accordion effect you usually see into turn 10. Crash! What a off! Big shunt to the wall. He's facing the wrong way. Loss of traction out of turn 10 will do that for you. He is missing both ends of his front wing. The biggest losers on that start, Night Owl, Mentoki, Polo God, and of course the drivers who have had offs already down outside that top 16 places. So we can now put you on the tires. And it is George Alp Williams leading yet another lap up in front of Ardell. Here's Uri, having great race pace compared to a very average qualifying. Ahead of FX7 Danny. Here's Night Owl and Goatley racing it out for 8th place in this race. Night Owl has to concede the place. Goatley gets ahead. Turbo is trying to do the same now. Uri and Turbo have really gained a lot of spots here from the start of the Grand Prix. Matty looked like he wanted to have a go. Zakaria and Jordan, two mates here, having a nice little battle for 12th. And Polo God, the very back of the strain, had a terrible start, but remember, he's on the hard compound tires. Should we really take that into consideration too much, considering Mentoki and Night Owl starts? Nonetheless, Woda is into the pits for hard compound tires and to repair that front wing, but also Hyper pitted moments ago as well for, I'm going to guess, a new front wing, but at least hard compound tires we know of. So, the top 11 are in DRS pursuit of George Alp Williams there. Turbo turning the battery to none to save some into the final corner, to have some to spare down this main straight. But Ardell is having a really great start. Up a few places, and in fact, this would be his first podium in Tier 2 if he takes it. He just has to avoid trouble. And right now, he's doing just that. Now, Ferrari had a little slide into turn one, a little rear lock there from either Danny or Penguin. But Night Owl stays put behind Goatley. And further back, Zakaria picks off a mate of his. That's RPL Jordan for 12th place. Night Owl still remains behind the RB there. And he's really in a Red Bull Academy sandwich. He's got Foles behind Turbo, Turbo behind him, and Goatley in front of him. Beatnik and Wavy are trading places down the field. That's for 16th. Wavy Knife had trouble to start this race. Beatnik, he's just having trouble to begin this race. And that is 18th place for him, now in no man's land. But I do want to give a big shout out to Ardell because he dropped down a tier for really not having the pace. And yesterday, after the Mercedes became open, after Drift King's intentional crash we caught on stream, Ardell immediately said, I want back in Tier 3. But really, he's proving why he doesn't need to be back in Tier 3. Up a place and fighting here with the big dogs here. Up in... Oh, what a crash on track. That's out of the race. He already was having issues. He had another off at turn 3. And is his car going? It is. So that is a retirement on track. You're not allowed to do that. But that is our first driver we lose from the event. As I was saying about Ardell, really great stuff here to start this race. We had an Aston lead momentarily. Shades of what Red Fire and Jordan were able to do back in Season 13 season opener. We have Night Owl trying to have a go around the outside of the RB, maybe trying for a cutback for turn 3. Is it possible? Maybe, but it's not going to happen unless it's down at turn 4 with a big lunge. Jordan and Zakaria racing it out here for 12th place, both in midfield machinery. Midfield Maestro picks off Jordan. It's a really great effort there to get in between both Jordan and Zakaria, both good friends there. And now midfield Maestro has to settle behind the Sauber. Looks like we've kind of formed this into two trains. FX7 Danny's lost touch. Uri is up there with the top 4. And Luke made a good point when Cookie made a little joke there about the Red Bulls, you know, not being up to par. The points are awarded in the race. That is correct. Look at where they're at now. 9th and 4th after qualifying 10th and 14th. So the Red Bulls, who didn't have a single chance at finishing top 3 in the championship and also only had one win last season, really, with a rookie lineup, doing a lot better than some anticipated. Looks like Jordan and Maddie, who are at the back of this third train here, still maintaining DRS, but we're on to lap 6. George Alp Williams out in front, and him and Uri are both on the same strategy, while Mentoki takes back over 5th, and Night Owl tries to reclaim 7th, while Goatley has a massive slide into turn 1. Night Owl takes it. What a big moment from the RB driver right in front of the Aston, who had a good avoidance there of not hitting the car in front, but also takes the place for good measure. F1 Shorts into the pits. He had a really great race yesterday in Tier 3, becoming the first Haas to, well, really, I think it was going to be a top 4 finish until we realized that Fusion will not be getting a penalty. So he was the second Haas, excuse me, to get a top 5 finish in RPL Tier 3, but he's just been overtaken by Hyper out of the pit lane, and F1 Shorts is onto the hard compound tire. Like I said, he was one of the drivers who had trouble on the opening laps. And great result in Tier 3 yesterday, as we noted already. He's got a lot of pace, the young kid, but just reminds me of Lando Norris early on in his career, where he had a lot of pace but could not get the results. Hopefully, he can get his way back up the field if we have a safety car or anything happen there. Because he does have a lot of pace and a lot of promise, the young Dutchman. Ardell just trailing George by about 2-3 tenths here. He's actually going to have a go around the outside in the braking zone. Night Owl tries to get Danny, but George remains in front momentarily, backs off there, and Ardell will have DRS there. George at Williams left in the dust without it. Matty gets Jordan, and further back, Night Owl did clear Danny for the place. Turbo also got Polo. We have a lot of movement here on our grid, and George is coming back at it to the S section and has a moment there, having to back out and concede the place. Uri is up to third now. If we have George L. Williams knocked off this podium and the two behind him get into the top three, we'll be having first-time podium sitters all over that podium tonight. Turbo, Uri, George, they're on the softs. Polo, Mintoki, and Night Owl on the hard compound tires. The rest of that top 11 in the fight, all on the mediums. And really, you're going to see it by the pit stops. These drivers who are in this train kind of fall apart from one another. Some will fall apart due to the pit stops from the overcut and undercut. Some will fall apart due to their tire wear. And some will fall apart due to just the lack of pace some of them have. But nonetheless, Aston Martin have never won in Tier 2. Ardell leads the way, and George at Williams has Uri right behind him, giving him a fight, while he's going to go for the lead of the race once again. George at Williams regains the top spot, just ahead of Ardell in the braking zone. He slides for good measure. Uri passes Ardell. Both of them used to be teammates. Guess who also used to be teammates? The top two in the race. George at Williams defending now for his life. The Aston around the outside of Ardell is going to have a go, and George makes contact with the Aston. Now for the third time today, we're going to go side by side on the S's. George R. Williams takes back over the lead of the race once again. They're really fighting egregiously in this train, and you know what it's done? It's brought Mintoki and everyone else back to 11th in the fight, up right here, having a chance. Now, everyone, pick your breaking point here. Danny didn't do a good job of doing that. He ran in the back of Night Owl, and that is going to cost him almost DRS. I was just going to say, when more cars get put in this train, with DRS, ERS, everything you factor in, also some people braking early for good measure, you have to brake earlier, because the car in front kind of dictates when you can brake and when you can't brake. You can't really use that racing line at all when you're following another car in front. But the top 11, like we said, have a chance. And really because of Ardell, George, and Uri all fighting it so aggressively, it did put Mintoki and them back up in the fight. You saw in the background Polo God overtaking Turbo, but Turbo has dipped off to the pit lane. He pits for the first time. And up in front, George at Williams is holding on. But Ardell has a fight with Uri that he's going to have to really fend off. He can't fend it off. Uri, though, is racing it out with George now for the lead. Look at this 5-car scrap. Mintoki trying to gain places. Ardell trying to gain places. Nowhere for Ardell to go, but Uri has to concede the lead. This is a fight for the ages up at the front of our field. I know it's DRS filled, but it doesn't matter to me right now because all these drivers in different academies, different teams, different tires, in fact, all have a chance. Turbo went for the undercut. I'm not sure if he'll be able to pull it off, but he pitted first of the drivers in this top 11 train. Zora says the softs might be falling a bit, but I will tell you, the only ones left out on the softs up there are our top two. So, really, if they're not making the most of them, well, they're at least having the track position with them, which is probably the beneficial thing here. 3-car fight for the last 3 places. F1 Shorts battled Beatnik yesterday. Deja vu to that. We're going to battle it once again today, and Hyper ran into the side of Beatnik, goes off the road, and keeps the place on the Williams driver. But Hyper goes really deep in the braking zone, and he might have to give that place up because he overtook off track. George, Ardell, they're in. Danny joins him as well. Up in front, Mintoki gets by Penguin. Now, Night Owl wants to have a go here at the Ferrari driver. Further back, Polo God is racing Goatley. These two collided last season in Imola. Clean this time between the pair of them. Both in different machinery as well. George Williams pitted from the softs. Uri still a pit from the softs. And we have a spin. That is for the Alpine of Hyper. He's around. He has damage on the M plate. And that is not a good sight from Hyper, who had a chance at a podium yesterday in Tier 3 in his debut. Now, struggling to keep it without damage, and now trying to keep it on the road. Remember, Turbo pitted first of those guys. He is behind Danny, but he's behind Danny only just, who's behind Ardell by quite a hefty margin. And we have another spin in the final corner. That is Hyper into the wall again. Hyper into the pits, and this might be the end of his race, unless he just repairs the front wing and continues to go. He does not. He retires from the race and says goodbye. It's really unfortunate. He had a lot of pace yesterday in the race, but it doesn't matter how much pace you have when you just run into trouble. Uri is in. Mintoki faked it, and Goatley joins Uri as well to the pits. Night Owl trailing the Ferrari only just, but gonna have a go in the braking zone. Late lunge from the Aston, trying to make it a Mercedes Academy 1-2. He cannot for the moment. They'll try and use the ERS down to turn 4, but meanwhile, Maddie breezes past midfield Maestro, and while Uri comes out of the pit lane, we're looking at George Williams down the main straight, who has Ardell for company. Ardell takes the net lead, but only just. And Uri comes out of the pits right behind George Williams. But the thing for Uri is he's on the medium compound tire, likely indicating he's going for a 2-stop here. Now, George did this in Tier 3, and it didn't work out, so I question, why would you do that? Goatley just pitted, gets overtaken by Academy teammate Turbo. It's very interesting, this Red Bull Academy lineup, because 3 of the 4 drivers were in Tier 3 last season. Mistake from Ardell, that puts George closer, and we have more yellow flags further back. That's for Wavy Knife having a moment. Penguin gets overtaken around the outside at turn 12 by Night Owl. Usually, that's not an overtaking opportunity, but Night Owl pulled it off brilliantly right there. Wavy Knife, more issues. Off again. Well, Mintoki pulled a dummy coming to the pits. Maybe had a mistake off the final corner. She still stays out. She's on the hards. Penguin stays out too, also on the hards, but gets overtaken by Polo God. Foles is in. And do we see Maddie or Maestro pit? Maddie does. Maestro just picks up some slipstream and continues on. Meanwhile, we're going to have a fight into turn 1 for our net lead. And what's going to be our race win. Ardell has it. George and Uri, both named George in their own languages, both want it. 3 abreast maybe to turn 1? No, Uri is just waiting for his moment to fight this. George clears Ardell, but did Ardell or George get the DRS? George and Ardell both didn't get the DRS. You know who does have it? Uri. Both left in the dry without DRS, having to defend, and Uri hits Ardell there. Zakaria gets Maddie, who's ghosted inside of Jordan right there. All these guys in the midfield have pitted there, but we're just waiting on the top 5 yet to come in. We're going to see some 2-stops, it looks like, tonight, but Uri has a chance to get his first Tier 2 podium and his first race win as well with it for good measure. We're going to switch back to our leaders who've yet to pit. I'm looking at now Mintoki on the main straight, having Night Owl and Polo God for company. It's a 3-car race into turn 1. How about 3 abreast into turn 1? Night Owl and Polo God take over at the front of the field. Mintoki drops from 1st to 3rd, but remember, they all still have yet to pit. Torn Penguin, though, does his pit stop. He's trying for the undercut on the 3 who've yet to pit. Now George has Ardell with DRS activated into turn 1. Ardell, he's been known for his aggressive style, aggressive racing. He's going to have an aggressive driver down the inside of him. Uri, side by side, all fighting behind George. Contact. Uri goes up the road, keeps the place momentarily, and you know Uri wants to squeeze him back after getting shoved up the road. He does, but Ardell keeps the place. Further behind, Jordan picks off Zakaria. That's 2 good mates right there. Just having a bit of fun in these midfield cars, trying to score some points tonight. If Uri and Ardell fight this so aggressively, they're going to keep themselves out of a chance of fighting George out Williams for the victory. And I can tell you right now, you don't want to do that. George has had so many races where he doesn't have the pace as much in Tier 2, but he just has the IQ that sets himself up beautifully for race victories. That was another off there. I believe that was either F1 Shorts or Wavy down at turn 4, but both of those drivers just not having the day they would have wanted. The top 3 remain out on the track, and Polo God, I can now say it, is leading the race. How about that? Starting very horribly on lap 1. A stinker of a start. He'll take over, but only just. Look at the Aston fighting this back. Both these guys going to cost himself a lot of time before they pit. One Aston leads this race, and one Aston wants to have the net lead back in this race. That's RPL Ardell. Great showing from him and Uri. FX7 Danny gains a place. Turbo in the sense runs in the back of the Ferrari up in front of him. That's Penguin. We're halfway in this race, and we have 4 drivers yet to box. That's our top 4. I wonder, with Midfield Maestro here yet to pit, will he help out the Ferrari Academy teammates here, who are 2.5 seconds behind? He tried to, maybe, but went a little too deep, and it allows Georgette Williams through. Ardell through. And look at this, Midfield Maestro right in front of the path of Uri when he re-enters. Midfield Maestro having a big slide. Big moment off turn 10. He will concede the place to Uri down at turn 11. We have another retirement today. It's Wavy Knife, our 3rd one. He is out of the race. That's very unfortunate for Wavy. It's caused yellow flags down the main straight, meaning Polo God can't overtake Night Owl. So he's just going to really stick it to medium. 3 wide down to turn 1. Did Mintoki time it right? I really wonder. She locks the rears and goes around. And she gets a corner cutting penalty for good measure. She had an incident 2 seasons ago at this race with RPL Jordan due to yellow flags. You just got to wonder now. Was that why she stamped on the brakes right there into turn 1? Ardell right behind George into the corner, but gets hit from behind. Uri gives him a tap. Polo God also wanted to have a go for that lead, but he didn't. He backed off from the Aston. And I really think those guys and girls were caught off from the yellow flags. Because they're just not going to play DRS games here with this. And Wavy Knife, he retired due to issues with his own equipment. He had wheel issues, so that's why he is out of the Grand Prix. He said it's the same thing as last season. It's very frustrating that it keeps happening, Wavy. I agree, but, you know, hopefully you can figure that out sometime soon here to get racing with a clean sheet this season. Both Ferraris get ahead of the Haas driver who's yet to pit, and I think the Haas of Midfield Maestro is just going to be an absolute blockage to the cars behind. No yellow flags this time. Polo God will have a chance to have a go for this lead once again. He will go for it in the braking zone. Locks the rears and hits the Aston. Side by side now at turn 2. I don't think Polo God wanted to do that, but he had a major lockup into turn 1, causing him to do a little punt to pass with the Aston to take over the lead of the race. Ardell is getting racy with Uri. Uri is going to shoot on the inside, and he makes contact with the Aston and makes sure he has to concede the place, the Aston, for turn 2. Now Uri is fighting George here for the net lead, and I just want to tell you, you know, this is shades of Whirly what it's like in Tier 3 with these two. Back at the end of Season 1, Turbo gets overtaken by Foles, and Zakaria and Jordan looked like they had a little bash and bang there at Turn 1. Because whatever's happened, Maddie's been affected, I think, from it. A lot of action to look out for wherever you look. But I believe Uri still is yet to pit. He's on the 2-stop. So, Polo God, Night Owl, yet to pit. And you just got to wonder with how long they're continuing to stay out. Are they looking for the soft compound tires instead of mediums? Night Owl behind Polo, now ahead of Polo. Night Owl getting the upper edge there on Polo God, both yet to pit. Mentoki has that penalty, could get it removed, and she sits a second behind those guys. For our net lead, though, it's all happening behind them. George at Williams has it. Uri wants it. Uri stays behind into turn 1. Torn Penguin dispatches his Ferrari teammate there for 7th place. Uri, Ardell, just sitting behind George in this train, trying to wait for their opportunity to have a go at him. Meanwhile, Jordan, with a little wiggle, overtakes Zakaria for good measure. This is a really scintillating battling between two good friends who know they're probably not going to finish in the points tonight, but just want to have a little bit of fun here in RPL Tier 2 once again. Both former Tier 1 drivers, both former Tier 1 point scorers, but, you know, it's been a while since we've said that for these two. They really seem like they belong in this tier quite well, because right now, Williams and Sauber are both outside the points with their teammate as well, but also shouldn't really be just off the points there with those two. So they're really outperforming their cars, regardless of the trouble the three drivers have had behind them today. Polo God is not going to re-overtake Night Owl to take the lead of the race, but Uri wants to try and get George here before he makes his second pit stop. And if he does pass George, which he does, it's going to disrupt things because Ardell is lurking further behind, and Danny and Penguin also have a chance at this too. Uri is through, and also Foles through on his Academy and RB teammate. The gap to the lead, though, about 18 seconds here. They're going to pass Night Owl and Polo when the pit stops do happen and everything does cycle out. But Polo God and Night Owl will have the fresher rubber to fight for this win. But it's just really going to depend on how they make their entry to the pits, how their in-lap is, how much this fighting continues. It's all going to play a factor here in this fight when they do pit. It was the Ferrari of Danny going a bit wide there out of the exit of turn 10. It's going to cost him a little bit of time, but big shout out there to Penguin running net P4, could be P3 once Uri pits. He's really not had many races where he's been up here like this and having a severe chance at getting a podium. Also, some rookies, Goatley, Uri, even Turbo, really showing that they can fight with the top drivers of Tier 2 in their first full-time starts. But meanwhile, Polo God repasses Night Owl for the race lead. And Georgia Williams scrapping it out with Uri, taking the place back. Ardell is waiting in the wings. He's not going to have a go. And if he does, it's going to be late in the braking zone. Yeah, he thinks better of it. Further back, Goatley ahead of Foles. Foles showed a lot of pace last season when he raced in the McLaren and Alpine. Right now, he's racing with his teammate. It's really probably the only fight he's had with his teammate so far in RPL, but it's definitely a good one with that being said. Remember, top 3 yet to pit, so this could become P6 or it could stay P9 for really whenever Polo God, Night Owl, and Mentoki kind of dish their way into this fight when they do come in for their pit stop. Oh, Goatley goes wide. And that's going to allow Foles maybe to get back past. But the mistakes he's making is really costing these guys at having a chance to fight in that train up at what's going to be the front of the field when everybody does cycle out. It's really affecting Turbo. It's affecting Foles, who finally gets past Goatley. Goatley is seriously struggling. What an abysmal second stint he's had here. Goatley, he had a really good first stint, but not a good second stint. Polo God and Night Owl stay out. Mintoki dips off into the pits for her first pit stop of the race, and probably only. Night Owl was thinking of going for a move on the leader, but didn't do it. And you know what? Why not? Why do you not do it, right? Because you just have to wait to pit, and as long as Polo's not costing you pace, then there's really no need for it. Mintoki, the only driver in this race, though, to have a penalty. That was due to spinning by herself there down at turn 1, rear locking it, trying to avoid hitting the cars in front and getting an illegal overtake, So she could get that removed, but you also have to provide your clip as well. And also, if it was multiple warnings, which I don't think it was, you would have to provide a race director as well. So Mintoki has come out on the medium tires behind Goatley, Foles, and Turbo. Her best chance might be just ahead of Turbo, but I don't think she'll get to Danny unless she has a blistering final stint. Which she's going to need because she does have the penalty. And remember, that could be kept if it doesn't get sent in. We can't guarantee it's going to be. So, yeah. Polo God and Night Owl both waiting to come in, Both waiting, I would assume, on the soft compound tires. Polo is in. Night Owl is going to wait an extra lap. He'll lead this race, so that now means 2 Astons have led this Grand Prix on pure merit. And Polo God is in for the softs. Mintoki makes easy work of Goatley, but Goatley wants to have a go back around the outside, and there is touching between the two. Goatley gets squeezed under the curb. Now, behind our leader, or net leader, what's going to be, Ardell gets overtaken by Torn Penguin. So has Ardell, who pitted 3 laps earlier than Penguin, kind of fallen off on these tires. Polo God comes out of the pits, and it's right in the path of both Red Bull Academy drivers. Look at this. Turbo and Foles right here, all in the equation. Mintoki, because of the RBs cutting in front of each other, can finally clear Goatley, and it looks like Zakaria, Jordan, and Maddie are having quite the race here for P12. 3 cars under a blanket. Midfield Maestro, by the way, finally came into pit, and Mintoki is still not done trying to pick off cars. She wants to get Foles now. And if Polo God has great pace, he can catch the top drivers here in front of him. But he's got to have no mistakes with it. He made a mistake down there at turn 10, causing Turbo to catch it momentarily, and then Turbo made a mistake, losing him DRS. Mintoki around the outside, now goes on the inside, and cannot clear the RB. Now, we're going to go wheel to wheel up the hill. Mintoki just gets cut off here. Night Owl finally is in. Mintoki is still racing it out here with the V-Carb driver wanting to get by as quick as she can because she knows Polo God is up the road on really the alternative strategy here, having a chance. Night Owl comes out. Uri around the outside will have a chance to go for this race lead, but has to stay behind the McLaren. Night Owl comes out behind Polo God, but ahead of this DRS kerfuffle here. Look at this. Foles out of Mintoki still, then Turbo, then Goatley. But it's not going to remain that way into turn 4. Goatley repasses the Red Bull. Or does he? No, he doesn't. I must say, the Tier 3 drivers from last season are doing a decent job tonight. Especially Uri. But the problem for him is, he is going to have to probably pit again just because of the strategy he's on. Soft medium. I don't think he's going to go the rest of the way, but if he does, that's a hell of a job from the Red Bull driver. The thing for Polo God when he catches his train, which he seems to be doing at a very quick rate, is he's got to manage his ERS. He's on 37% on that battery. Look at what the top three have. 81, 24, and 36. Penguin and Ardell, they're in a better shot at saving ERS and having enough for the finish to have a go with our leaders compared to Uri and George sticking with it. Uri is kind of drifting away from George, so it's going to allow Penguin to have a chance. Polo sets the fastest lap. Contact for second. Penguin smashes into the side of the Red Bull as he breezes past him down the main straight. Polo God is getting quick on the car in front and this DRS train for the win, but he's got to have enough tires left for the end of this race. And remember, we've not had a safety car at all so far this race, or a VSC for good measure. You just got to wonder, hopefully the drivers have saved enough fuel. 3 wide at turn 1 and into turn 2. Jordan, Zakaria, Maddie. That's the running order, 12th to 14th. And also, Danny has dispatched Ardell for 4th place. Ardell seems to really be on the back foot here in this second stint, like I was saying earlier on. Polo God, though, has caught up. And he's up to the top 6. He's up to the DRS train. But he's now got to find ways to pick up the drivers in front. Goatley has got a penalty. That's down in 10th. He could be losing out on points because of that. Jordan and Zakaria and Maddie, they're just having quite the battle of the century here for 12th place. You know, we saw 3 photo finishes in this race 2 seasons ago in the season opener. I just wonder if we'll see it again with all the racing going on. We have a battle for 3rd now. FX7 Danny. Time is ticking for Ferrari to go and fight this for the victory. He is on the outside line now for turn 2 and just gets cut off. Ardell is waiting to make a move, and Polo God needs to get these guys quickly. 4 cars under a blanket for 3rd. Uri is yet to pit. Ardell has been falling like a rock on those tires, and Polo God is gonna get both of them. Crucially needed that move, and he got it. Polo God is up to 4th. The last time he got on a Tier 2 podium, George was up there with him, and he could be again today. What a thrilling battle we've got between the top 7, and look who's also joined this fight. Night Owl. He is there to pounce. His first target in this train on the newer tires is FX7 Danny. He makes quick work of him, up to 6th. Polo God's next target is Uri, who seems to also be falling off a rock on the medium tires. He wants to make it to the end, and he probably could, but he's risking a puncture doing so. I mean, his tires are just falling off a cliff. But I want to remind everybody, Polo God, since returning to RPL, has had 2 chances at a podium. One in Monza last season, and also one a season prior in Austria. But now, he's got his teammate up there helping him. And also helping himself win the race. But getting overtaken, Torn Penguin leads the Grand Prix. It's another different leader to this Grand Prix. Polo God up to 3rd. And Night Owl did make quick work of Ardell. He got that place quite easily, while Matty further back has picked up his first track limit penalty of the race. Night Owl now has his next target in front of him. That's Uri. Big dive bomb there. He clears him and is ahead. So both the soft runners on the reverse strategy, the opposite strategy, are making this work. But remember, they've got to get these tires to the end. They probably will with what they're doing, but making quick work of these guys, they've done more than anticipated. And if you thought George Williams last season was too fast for the tier after winning the championship and making the largest Tier 2 comeback in RPL history, well, don't look now. We've got, 6 drivers in the equation fighting it out with him with what's going to be 5 laps remaining, 4 laps next time. We're still not done here. Look at this. Zakaria, Jordan, and Maddie. Midfield Maestro wants to join in on the fight as well. Just want to remind everybody with where Polo God stands right now in 3rd place. He's not had a podium since Season 9 Imola. That was back in the Haas. One of the 5 drivers to get a podium for Haas. It's been 490 days since that last podium. Could tonight be the night he returns to the podium? Could tonight be the night they go 3 wide into turn 1? Big maneuver down the straight. Both McLarens are going at it into turn 1. George leads the Grand Prix again, and Polo God around the outside hangs on to second. Now he needs to make sure that he has enough time to stay ahead of Night Owl and fight this between him and George. Night Owl has a chance to go down the inside of Penguin, and he does. Both soft runners have had an immense charge through the field to fight for this victory, and they're now within striking distance of George. It's a McLaren 1-2 like it was last night. 4-car drag race into turn 1. Put them all under a blanket. Midfield Maestro's trying to get 3 and 1, and he gets shoved off the road by Zakaria. That's Academy teammates right there. This is thrilling stuff, but Polo God leads the race in Bahrain. He gets ahead of George F. Williams with what's going to be 3 laps to go next time. Polo God has never won in F1 cars in RPL. Could tonight be the night he spoils the party George F. Williams was having at the front of the field? Really, what George has to do here is make sure he has a chance with Polo and fends off the Aston, who has extreme pace right now. Night Owl's on the charge. George on the charge. 3 wide into turn 1. Polo God was a sitting duck right there. Night Owl braked latest and gets shoved right to the curb. Side by side, Night Owl leads again. This is a thrilling season opener. It might come down to the last corner, last lap. Polo God waiting in the wings while his teammate retakes the lead, and Polo gets Night Owl 2 with it. We've got trouble. That's Turbo, the rookie driver, outside the points and spun around. He might have had contact. He was in a big, big battle for points, but the McLarens, once again to turn 8, run 1-2. Just remember, Uriah is still staying out in these softs, but he's falling down to 7th. He's making a soft medium strategy work, but, not with a lot of pace. Look at this. Are we going to go 4 wide down to turn 4? Oh my word, we are momentarily. Crash! Zakaria and midfield Maestro swabble around, and they're down out 2 places from the front of the train. What a big moment there. Jordan and Maddie, they both take advantage. And we're going to see, I think, F1 Shorts try to go for the fastest lap there. 2 laps to go. George F. Williams is trying to win an 11th Tier 2 race with his teammate right behind before turn 1. We're going to get 3 wide once again. Polo God and Night Owl, both on the fresher rubber, taking advantage. Polo God having a go at his teammate now and spins. Into the wall he goes. And the 930 days since his last RPL win is gonna have to wait. A big mistake rear locking the brakes into turn 1 has costed Polo God a chance at victory and even a podium. The Irishman will not be happy with that. I don't know if someone moved under the brakes or he lost it on his own trying to not run into the back of somebody, but that's heartbreak for Polo. And FX7 Danny rams Ardell, and Ardell gets spun around. Ardell got 1 too many taps, and it led to him getting spun around for 4th place. He was having a great run. That's put Uriah up 2 places, who was just falling like a rock. Now for the victory. It's going to be a 3-car race here. A 3-horse race. Ferrari, McLaren, and Aston Martin. Aston Martin have never won in Tier 2, but they have had quite a few podiums prior. They've had 8 to their name, and in fact, 3 of them have been P2 finishes. This guy, in fact, also lost the steward's room, lost the race in the steward's room last time out in Abu Dhabi. Now, he's trying to have a recovery while FX7 Danny has it off. Almost into the wall he goes. Penguins never won either, but George has won 11 times. Is it gonna be contact? It is! Big contact! George shoves it in there. Side by side to turn 2 and turn 3. Here comes Penguin on the inside to try and pick them both off. Big send, big lunge. He's only ahead momentarily while George takes the lead back. What a crazy battle. I was going to say, is it going to be the experienced versus youth? It very well could be. Two drivers taking their first win, or George holding on for his 11th. George stays ahead while the Ferrari has a big tank slapper behind. Remember, Night Owl went for a big dive bomb at the last corner in Abu Dhabi to pick off George for the victory. Right now, George has an ERS advantage and has the track position. But that didn't seem to matter with what happened in Abu Dhabi because the steward's room had interfered with what the 1-2 was. If George's send was egregious, they could interfere once again. One last dance to the final corner. George using battery to remain ahead. And he is going to remain ahead. George F. Williams starting it off where he left off last season with a victory. 11 wins now in the tier, second all time. George F. Williams claims victory in Bahrain. Night Owl finishes second again for the Aston Martin team. It's another one of the second place finishes for them that leaves them in heartbreak, not getting the victory. And it's also Torn Penguin's first podium there as well. Kentucky could get that removed, maybe getting fourth or third. Uri, though, is fourth. Ardell, fifth. Mentoki, sixth. We have FX7 Danny, seventh. Foles, eighth. Polo got heartbreak there, down in ninth. Goatley, our last points runner. Uri made the soft to medium compound tires work there, but he lost a lot of pace in the last stint. Side by side, neck and neck, drag race to the line. Maddie, I think, just missed out on getting Jordan. That was due to the penalties, but I think he got him on track. Very good effort there. Jordan and Maddie, yeah, look at that gap. Just milliseconds between those guys at the finish. Beatnik and F1 Shorts cross the line to end off the Grand Prix. George F. Williams wins once again. You just gotta wonder, although in these races when he doesn't have a lot of pace, how does he do it? How does he do it? He made his return to Tier 2 in Spain, and since then, he's won 6 of the last 9 races. Excuse me, 6 of the last 8 races. It's just remarkable what George F. Williams, who sticks a fist in the air, he has been able to do. The Welshman on top once again. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. What a race to the end. I really wonder if the stewards will interfere with that dive bomb George pulled off at turn 1. I don't know if they will, but hard racing for the victory. George F. Williams sprays the champagne on the top step. Night Owl comes up 1 spot short for the Aston Martin team. The team in green still are left without a Tier 2 victory. Could happen in the stewards room, but we'll find out later on in the week if it is the case. Ferrari with a really good start to the season. Torn Penguin. He's not a full-time Ferrari driver, but he earns himself a first career Tier 2 podium tonight. Really good effort there. Uri, it's his best Tier 2 finish. Ardell in the top 5 again in Tier 2. It's been a while since we've said that. Mentoki, 6th. She could get that removed. Probably puts her 3rd or 4th. FX7 Danny, 7th. 7 for 7. Foles, 8th. Goatley, 10th. Double V-car points finish. And Polo, God, I really feel bad for him. I know it was his own doing, but the rear lock there was just so hard to watch because you knew at that point when you saw him go in the wall, his chances at even a podium, if it wasn't going to be the victory, was over. Those 930 days since his last win that came in F2 back in 2022 of April. The 490 days since that last podium back in July of 2023 in that race in Imola with George, the wet one. It will have to wait for another podium or a victory for Polo God, but he showed today that he can really fight with these guys this season, and I think that's a positive to hold his head high on. We lost 4 drivers from that event, I believe. Maybe 3. We lost Wavy Knife, Well, we lost 3, I should say. We lost Wavy Knife. We lost Hyper, and we lost Woodda. I'm going to give my driver of the day to probably George. If he loses it in the storage room, it's Night Owls. But the thing that makes me give Night Owl the driver of the day, if it were to be his, if he wins it in the storage room, is the fact that he did this all in the revert strategy and was really 4 seconds behind along with Polo. And they had the pace. They just couldn't break away from the DRS train once they got there. And I think that was a big issue for them. The pressure got to Polo. And for Night Owl, it didn't get to him. Obviously, he could win it in the storage room, but for George, he doesn't always have the pace, and he isn't always the fastest, but he just always finds a way. Last lap, George strikes again, and he wins an 11th Tier 2 race, and also wins a race in another season of Tier 2. How does this guy do it? He's really impressive with it, and he's really found something. 6 of the last 8 races. It's really remarkable. And I know I'm not giving these 2 driver of the day, but I'm giving them runner-ups for it. Uri and Ardell. Tier 3 drivers last season. Tier 2 drivers this season. Ardell is not a Tier 2 rookie, but Uri is. He made the soft medium strategy work. I know he didn't really get a great finish with it. It could have been a hell of a lot more. He could have fought with George for the victory, but he knew his pace probably wasn't there like he showed it in qualifying, so he had to try something out of the blue, and he did do that. He actually got a decent result with it. And for his first full-time Tier 2 race, getting his best finish, which could become even 5th after the penalties get removed from Kentucky's side, that's still a really brilliant effort. And for Ardell's case, he led at one point, he was fighting for the win at one point, and fighting for the podium at one point. His day on the Tier 2 podium will come soon. He's just got to continue to be patient, because that was probably the best racecraft I've seen from Ardell in a while. And kept it penalty-free. Which, at Bahrain, you shouldn't really be getting a penalty anyway, though. So, we have 2 more races this weekend. F2, I will not be there for, but we're in Silverstone. And then F1 will end off the weekend in Bahrain. Titan Ironwolf will be on commentary for that one. That will be the last race of Bahrain to end off the weekend. And next week for Tier 3 and Tier 2, we will be at China. So that should be a fun one. Coming back to the circuit that saw the first ever 1-2 Academy finish with different cars. With Jack Miles and Beatnik, some Tier 1 winners, and also Tier 2 winners as well. Former F2 champions with that alongside their name as well, too. So, we'll have to find out what happens next week for the Grand Prix in China in Tier 2. Or tomorrow for F2 in Silverstone or F1 in Bahrain. Tune in for that, folks. I'll see you next time, or we'll see you next time here at RPL Formula 1. Ryan Searles, your commentator, signing off. Have a good night, and we'll see you then.